Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about confidence, considering we were talking about fear before. Confidence is the thing, one of those things that lets you kind of overcome that quite naturally without having to go through the questioning process that I talked about before. And as a result, I wanted to start off by just telling you a little bit of a story about myself, because when I was a kid, when I was very small, when I was like, before the age of 5 maybe at the very latest, or about the age of 5 at the very latest, I used to be a lot more, as a kid I was quite boisterous, I was not hyperactive, but I enjoyed messing around a lot. However, then as I got older, probably over the age of 5 or so, not only did I now have a little brother, so that was a new situation for me that took attention away from me, and as a result I wasn't getting as much reinforcement for being for like running around and having fun. But also we ended up moving house to a completely different area. I lived in not a super rural area, but it was like a smaller village in very much more the middle of nowhere than where I live, where we moved to. And as a result, that changed. I had to make a whole load of new friends. I had to start a new school and all those kind of things. And as a result, with habits changing and even diet changing and everything else like that to one degree or another when we moved into a large town, I became much quieter. I became much more reserved. I became much more introverted or passive in my interactions with people. And as I became more intelligent, as I became more educated and took on more information, and my awareness and perspective around me grew, I became more scared of things, because it was a case of I'm seeing all these things working in my head. There are all these patterns I'm observing, but no one else is seeing them, and I'm the odd one out, and it's unsettling to me, And as a result, throughout school and so on, I never really had a vast number of friends. I never really had a particularly active social life, but I had an awful lot in regards to learning, and I enjoyed learning. I was one of those few kids that enjoyed going to school to pick up all of this new information. There were parts that I didn't, but there's good and bad with everything. But then I got towards the end of secondary school, kind of sixth form, college time, and I got an awful lot more frustrated with things, because I was really going off into a place where I wasn't particularly physically healthy. I wasn't particularly happy in myself and so on, and because I was getting so pissed off, and the only person that was doing this was myself, as I've mentioned in another video, it was a case of, or rather, as I will mention in another video, it was very much a case of kind of jumping up and like sorting myself out, in which case I lost a lot of weight. I became much more confident in myself, and especially once I realised that the patterns that I was seeing in people and the behaviours that I was seeing and everything else were things that I could keep an eye on and then respond to accordingly, because human behaviour is both complex and easy. But it took me a fair while to realise that. However, that was when I became very cocky. I became very overconfident. I was in no way a nice person at that point. And that sudden surge of confidence in a place where there just hadn't really been any before, not to the same extent, that allowed me to go and do a lot of things and attempt a lot of things that I really had no inclination to, or had a lot of issues with before. And it was very liberating, but also it made life kind of boring, because it got to a point, especially in social interactions, where it was all kind of paint by numbers stuff, and as a result it got dull, and the overconfidence was driving me both into these things, but also further away from the people I was actually meeting, further away from the things I was doing, because it was all very dull. It was all very boring. And as a result, though, then I actually had a tough time after a while with some of those relationships that I had cultivated breaking down because because I had put an awful lot of faith in them when I really shouldn't have, or because I had been far too confident in my outlook, and those people were driven away by that to one extent or another. However, then that kind of crushed me, and I lost a lot of that confidence again. I'd been proven wrong. I had been proven that the way that I was acting wasn't conducive to being happy or being good or being effective or being anything really other than an arsehole. And as a result, then I entered the world of work, and I just got my head down and did the work and got stuck in, and I was recognised for that. But at the same time, during that time, it took me a while to start regaining some confidence. It took me a little bit longer to start kind of pulling myself back up to a level, and then I started actually paying attention to what I was doing, to monitoring how much of how confident I was being, how cocky I was being, how insecure I felt, and I was trying to keep that under wraps a lot more. And I got to a point where I moved through into management, and I was doing that fairly consistently and fairly well. And then it got to a point where I went and realised that there was no point in having confidence in the minute to minute, day to day. I can make decisions, I can talk to people, I can deal with hard stuff. It's I don't have to worry about the little things and all that kind of stuff. It got to a point then that I kind of had a realisation that there was no point in me having that level of confidence in the day-to-day unless I was doing something that was worthwhile. And this was when I started moving away from working for corporations and so on as a manager, and moving more towards what I actually enjoyed, which was coaching. I enjoyed within my management roles helping other people advance. I enjoyed achieving goals myself. I enjoyed working with people, which was something that I never thought I would be when I was in school, and I very much wanted to be a laboratory scientist, where I'd just be hidden in a clean room doing whatever for my days. But as a result, it was a case of I had found this place where I felt very comfortable, very happy, and it was something that also still stretched me. It's something that was challenging, it was something that was fun, and at times very scary. But it was still something that I could drive towards, and it was something that was worth it. And as a result, with that initial move, the first few steps that I took, I was very confident. I was very sure of myself. It was about this time that I also met my current girlfriend Hannah, who was very supportive and helpful in just like giving me an extra set of reasons just to want to keep going. And I lost some friends during that time. I picked up some new ones. I became both more available to socialize with people, but also less available to socialize with people. The number of times friends would call me, or even the other night I had some friends send me a message about going out for drinks, and I hadn't seen some of these guys for a fair while, and yet it still came down to the fact that unfortunately when they were meeting up was exactly the same time that I needed to be on a call with someone else, and as a result I had to I had to unfortunately decline their invitation and move on. But it's like that's been the case for a while now, unfortunately. But I would say now that I've probably become less confident in what I was doing, purely because of how long I've been doing it now, and some of the ups and downs, and just some of the wear and tear. But this is where the confidence that I've had is important, because it's not confidence that's pure arrogance, because there's a difference between being confident and even being cocky and being arrogant. Being confident or cocky, cocky is just a much more kind of exaggerated form of confidence to a degree, but being confident in and of yourself should be based on evidence. If I can turn around and I can show you my CV, I can show you my the testimonials from clients, I can show you all of these things that point towards me being good at what I do and that I'm continually working to improve. You know, all of those things I can show as you know, with some solidity, so that I can go, yes, I'm good at this, therefore my confidence is justified. I'm not just being an arrogant dickhead. When I say something within this sphere, or when I say something in regards to these things, or when I do this or interact with that, I'm confident because I have this experience, or because I have done this before, or because I happen to be this kind of person, and so on and so forth. You know, that stands as a very solid way to be confident, especially if you've been very objective in pulling up that evidence to present to yourself. But then if you slip into arrogance, then there's not usually an awful lot of evidence for what you're saying, and you are just being a dickhead, and you are being usually very negative towards others to make yourself seem better, and that's not really the best way to go about things, because then it puts up other roadblocks along the way, because your actions have had a negative impact, and the negative impact has had a knock-on effect that then has ended up building well, in Trump's case, potentially a war between him and Mexico. But you know, it's one of those things that you need to monitor. And there was some stuff in the work from one of the coaches that I've come across before, when I was doing much more of the dating side of things. A chap called Carlos Zuma, who did these scales of people and their behaviors and stuff like that. And I'm sure I'll go through those in another video, because I find them really, really interesting to look at, because it's again like DISC, like the DISC stuff that I've mentioned briefly before. They're things that you can look at, and then you can look at people and the way they act, and you can go, oh yeah. So I'm sure I'll cover those in the future. But in regards to confidence, where I'm interested in what you guys have to say. Where have you had to be confident? Where have you had to force yourself? What are your experiences? Are they similar to mine, where you've had to, you know, you've had your starting point, but then you've had to kind of shoot either side of your ideal person to actually hone in on what kind of person you are, and your natural level of confidence, and how best you interact with things, you know? Or were you just one of these people that was lucky enough to find that spot early on and you've just stuck with it, you know? Or have you still not found it? Please let me know. It's interesting to me, and I'm sure that anything that you guys have to say will also resonate with other people. But yeah, if you found what I'm saying here interesting, drop me a like, and otherwise subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.